36 Eureka Street, for the assist, although we have an ICE agent calling. They've got an officer over there who's allegedly being surrounded, trying to get more info. On the way. Allegedly 25 surrounding him. Any units, let me know when you're on a ride. 1789. This is the Worcester Police Department. This is the unlawful assembly.
Dog shit. Today is Monday. God, it's Monday. Today's Monday. Oh my God. Monday, May 12th. You're listening to Outdoor Cats. I'm Bill. That other voice over there, that's Chris. And what the fuck, man? What the fuck?
What the fuck, man?
We have entirely too much to talk about. This is, what do you say? What do you even say?
Why are we like this?
What? I literally don't know where to start, what to say about this, where to begin. Most of this show is going to be an interview that I recorded while Chris was away with Ellen Shemitz, the now former, she corrects me on that even in the interview. We don't know. She's not going to be on the Human Rights Commission much longer.
Yes.
When we recorded, we didn't know who was going to replace her. We now know that replacement is the police chaplain. So, City Manager Eric Batista replacing one of two HRC members that were actually trying to do police accountability with the chaplain of the police department, Father Polish name.
Jonathan Slavinskis.
Jonathan Slavinskis. A close personal friend of one of the heads of the police union, Anthony Petroni. I didn't bother to look this up, but I'm sure enough to say it on this podcast that he was a member of the that rotten police union Facebook group that was everyone's favorite daily check during Black Lives Matter 2020. In any case, not somebody who's going to do any sort of real substantive pushes for police reform. We can pretty much guarantee that. And you have to think that's why Batista put him there, right?
Yeah, I was trying to remember why this name, besides the police stuff, overtly. To be fair, he's also the chaplain of the fire department, but he's the chaplain of the Auburn Police Department as well. So 2 police departments, 1 fire department. I was trying to remember why his name always jumps out at me, and what I'm remembering now, and I don't have this in front of me either, but I'm also confident enough to say it on the podcast, is that where I remember his name coming up a bunch of times is like every NIMBY effort that happens up in the Upper Lincoln Street area. He has been a spokesperson for. So he spoke against
so like
the
Oriole
Spectrum.
Drive?
Yep, exactly. Specifically Oriole Drive. I believe he spoke against these Spectrum sighting up there for the methadone clinic and other stuff that they do there. Also spoke against the temporary supportive housing in the hotel that's at the back end of Oriole Drive. So that's the other reason I remember him. He's a NIMBY guy who's also the chaplain for the cops and also great friends with, personal friends with some of Worcester's most infamous, let's say, officers of the law.
So his work on Oriole Drive and other such Lincoln Street products would make him a collaborator then with Candy Merrill Carlson, who also happens to be a close personal friend with Anthony Petroni. So you get the idea. You get the idea of the pool from which this person was pulled to replace the woman that you are about to hear in this interview speak very eloquently, competently, and having definitely done her homework about the issues with the police department and police reform. Very hard to see this as anything but trying to stifle an effort to do police reform from Eric Batista. Now, why would we need to do any police reform? Did anything happen this weekend?
Yeah, I heard a few things happened last week into the weekend. It was kind of all one big rolling law enforcement mess. You saw more of it than I did. But yeah, turns out ICE came to town on it was Thursday, right?
Thursday at about 11:16 a.m. was when the first dispatch call went out that ICE were at Eureka Ave. I was on my way there because I got a call that there were some community members there that were organizing to stop deportation. So I'm loading my ass into the car right away when I hear that. I put the scanner on, set my recorder on, I got the scanner playing, and I hear, going out over the scanner, there's the ICE agents are surrounded. We need people down there. And the cops are like, all right, on our way. So I get there pretty much when the cops get there, and the Worcester Police Department helps ICE load a woman into an unmarked SUV toward an unknown destination. Helps the SUV get away from the crowd of people around it, demanding to see a warrant or any sort of reason or indication of due process in this detention. And the police didn't make sure that any of that was copacetic, but they did make sure that no one could stop the van from getting away. And they also arrested 2 people, including the daughter of the woman that was kidnapped by these ICE agents, and should probably even say we don't know if they're ICE agents. They didn't show a badge or anything. So all that happened, and then ICE. And then skipping over so much shit. Ashley Spring and the daughter of the woman deported, who is 16 years old and so has not been named in any official documents, which is probably for the best. They were both hit with the package that me and Chris have talked about. But the child, who was just desperately trying to stop this SUV with her mother in it from leaving, was also hit with a reckless child endangerment charge, which is a fairly serious felony. And I was reviewing the tape this morning, and the Worcester police just mistook two different Latina women. The 16-year-old that they arrested was never holding the child. It was another person that was holding the child.
Yeah.
The cops were speaking to another person that was holding the child. They, like, I guess I'll put an allegedly over this entire thing, right? Whatever. But it's pretty obvious that what they said happened with this 16-year-old girl did not happen. I mean, I have video that I haven't even put out. And maybe that's why they felt comfortable that they could get away with this, because that part of the video isn't out anywhere, but that part of the video is shared with, attorneys and such. That part of the video can be summoned should it need to, and it's going to get that charge thrown out.
Yeah, I guess I was just going to say that this is a thing that cops do. They overcharge people. They throw whatever charges on them they want. They're fast and loose with how they do that. Worcester Police, this would not be the first time that they've mistaken one Latina for another or a similar type of circumstance. And you and I talked about this, Bill, but a thing I want to make sure that we mention is that what all of this has done, among other things, is to set the daughter herself up to be at serious risk of being picked up by ICE and also detained because she now has criminal charges. And ICE does not wait around to see if you get due process and have a conviction and have your day in court. They will label you a violent criminal because you have been charged. So with all the other really super helpful things that the Worcester Police did on Thursday, they quite possibly set this child up to be deported as well.
Right. And like, we should say that that's like pending certain like considerations of like what sort of status the child has, which we don't know and don't really need to know. And it seems to matter less and less every day what people's immigration statuses are from the broad wonky spectrum between what your Fox News types are going to call an illegal and like a citizen by birth. They're really trying. They're trying to claw that back significantly, and looking for examples and ways to do that. So it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, and to claim that the line from the police department, it was that they were trying to sort of keep the public peace, and there was an unruly mob that had just formed out of thin air for no reason. And like the statement from the city manager is like, we can't intervene in ICE detention, right? But like that totally obscures the fact that the cops didn't just not intervene. They showed up to actively help.
Yeah.
Right?
They intervened on behalf of ICE.
They intervened on behalf of ICE. And to try to find some sort of like wonky explanation to the contrary, it's just not going to work. ICE was there. The ICE wasn't getting away. WPD showed up. ICE got away. I mean, what? Okay, that's literally what happened. Now we have statements from the police chief and the head, Thomas Duffy, the head of the police union, accusing Atel Haxhiaj, who was there, who was among the community members there, like bravely trying to interfere in this like extrajudicial fucking extraction of a person from a quiet neighborhood in her district. And they're using the word assault. And they're calling for an ethics investigation. And they're saying that she put hands on a police officer and whatever. Which is crazy, one, and vile, and it's just disgusting. So that's kind of where we're at with that right now, which is a scary place to be. She was also mentioned in the ICE release that ICE put out about this through the Telegram on Saturday. So this is a rapidly developing story, and probably by the time you're hearing this, we're working with outdated information. But it seems like from the local police up to ICE, the counter response is going to be to try to pin this all on Atel for inciting a riot.
Yeah, it's weird. I thought we couldn't do ethics investigations or employee inquiries with members of the city council, as they are not in a class designated as employees of the city. Didn't this just recently come up?
This did just recently come up, actually. Yeah, I wonder if we'll see some of our favorites singing a different tune now. But honestly, for Chief Saucier especially, I mean, it was in the Boston Globe this morning to make these comments about a sitting city councilor is just absolutely insane. Give me a second. I'm going to pull up that Boston Globe story because it's behind a paywall and it just came out this morning. So we'll put a link to the super special unpaywalled by totally legal means, so that people can read this. But okay, here it is. Police Chief Paul Saucier said in a statement Sunday, Worcester officers don't enforce federal immigration law or ask anyone their status, and do not coordinate with federal immigration authorities. Put a pin in that. Who called them? Who called them to the scene? Who called the police to the scene if you don't coordinate with federal immigration authorities?
Although we have an ICE agent calling, there's down an officer over the S.
He also accused Haxhiaj of interfering with city officers. Interfering with city officers. Doing what? What were the city officers doing that Haxhiaj was interfering with? That part goes unstated, right? The officers were doing what they had to do, and there was interference. It's total cop speak to like obscure the action and the object of everything that goes on here to make it seem more defensible. And then this is a direct quote here from Police Chief Paul Saucier. It is disappointing and unacceptable that a Worcester City Councilor put her hands on our officers during the incident on Eureka Street. Regardless of the charged political climate, physical violence is never an acceptable response to policy disagreements. I was there. Atel did not use physical violence in any fucking way. The police department did. The police department used a fuckload of physical violence against a 16-year-old goddamn fucking girl who is watching her mother go away in an unmarked fucking SUV toward an unknown destination. How would you react? How would you react to that?
Yeah.
And then the Worcester Police Department showed up to fucking tackle her and hit her with charges that don't even make sense.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost it for a second, but
No. I mean, it's really fucking upsetting. And I only watched the video, and I mean, I think, from my perspective, what I saw Attell do was a very good use of a non-violent resistant tactic, which was to like physically intertwine her body with the body of the woman who the police were trying to take away and stay there. Attell is also, everybody who knows Attell's little. Like, that's not to say like little people can't, quote unquote assault people, but I mean, it's ridiculous, and it's ridiculous that they're talking about it this way. And I feel the anguish that you are expressing. I've said it before, but I've had to watch people get arrested by ICE, and now unfortunately, a bunch of my friends and neighbors have had to watch that too. And it's a very different. Watching someone get arrested is never pleasant. But when someone gets arrested by the city cops, it's like, okay, they're going to go down to the police station. They'll see a magistrate. They'll get a bail. We'll start going through, start getting some money together. We'll have them out, by tonight, or, we'll have them out in a few hours from now. When someone gets arrested by ICE and detained by ICE, they go into an unmarked car and they disappear, and no one knows where they are, sometimes for days or weeks. And their family can't reach them, and council can't reach them. And there is no guarantee that you will ever see them again in this country, period. Mm-hmm. And that's fucking scary. Like people were scared. And that was a completely proportional response to what was happening and unfolding in front of them.
And the police are now going to call all of it a riot that was incited to sow chaos. The neighborhood, I wasn't there, but you have to assume, based on how every other part of the neighborhood was, as I was driving over, extremely peaceful. It's a nice day, bright, sunny day, kind of day you wait all year for. People are mowing their lawn. There's, mailman's walking around. There's some dogs on a walk. You get over to this place, and it's not peaceful. It is definitely a scene. But what caused the scene, Chris? What was the actual inciting incident of this turning from a peaceful to a non-peaceful situation? Was it the community members who showed up apropos of nothing to start screaming, or was it the ICE agents that appeared out of nowhere without saying why, trying to take a woman without showing a warrant for it? Which one was it?
Yeah. Or showing badges. They've got vests on. A lot of them have masks on their face. They're doing this whole like paramilitary thing that they're very fond of doing now, and they've been doing. And we should say too, like, I am sure it's happening many other places as well, but Massachusetts is getting fucking rocked by ICE right now. There have been reports of them somewhere or somewheres in Massachusetts, multiple somewheres in Massachusetts, basically every single day since the beginning of last week. They were in Great Barrington. They were in Chelsea. I've heard that they were possibly in, I think it was Mendon. They've been all over the place, and this is what they do. They show up, oftentimes like heavily armed, unidentified. They don't tell anyone what they're there to do. They don't show anyone any cause to be doing what they're doing, and they go in and they just fucking abduct people. And it's people are scared. It's very scary. And that's a scary thing to look down. And yeah, I see people that showed up like that, trying to disappear a woman, and a very substantial, and to me, like, I'm very proud of Worcester. It's among the many feelings that I'm feeling about this. I'm so proud to live in a city where people showed out like that, and people put themselves on the line like that to try to protect one of their neighbors. And then because of that, the response to that is that the police department sends what looks to me like every fucking cruiser in the city. It was a lot of cops.
Yeah, it was like 5 at first, but within 5 minutes, it was like 40 or 50. I swear to God. Yeah.
And then they're interacting in a, I would say, pretty confrontational way with the crowd. They're helping ICE do ICE's bidding. And then they chase down and arrest the daughter, who it looked to me was running after the van with her mom in it, with no child, by the way.
Yep.
And then
with no child the entire time.
A Worcester cop shoves a large Worcester cop shoves Ashley Spring.
Yep.
Pretty hard, and then points, and him and another officer put her into handcuffs.
Yep.
She is charged, by the way, with assault and battery on a police officer, which is what they charge you with when the police assault you.
Yeah, with an unknown liquid, which is it's very kind of darkly funny to hear all the local cranks talking about the horrors of unknown liquid, as if that's a thing that they have ever once said, thought, or considered at all in their life before they heard the police department use that term on Thursday. It was a little bit of water. I mean, whatever.
A little bit of water in a scrum of people, like where people are getting shoved and stuff. Can you perhaps envision, listeners, some circumstances in which, let's say, a bottle of water or a baby bottle or something might splash a little liquid when cops are shoving people around?
Yeah. It's gross. It's just the whole thing is gross, and one of the things I can't get out of my head is I walked down with this 16-year-old and with Ashley Spring as they're being led to sort of like the end of the road to be taken away by paddy wagons, and I'm asking everyone, what are the charges? What are the charges? What are the charges? Everyone's ignoring me until this canine unit. He had canine unit and Watts on the front of his thing. I originally thought it was SWAT, and then I looked back, and it seems like it's a nameplate for Watts. He tells me the charges, and he says that they were interfering with police business. And I said, was it Worcester police business? And he just looks at me like I'm a fucking smartass, right? I was like, that's kind of, like what police business is a gray area. There's a huge gray area there. And he just says, nope, not really.
Yeah.
Which is it was one of the more honest things that any cop has said about this, is that there really isn't a gray area, that, ICE business is police business.
Yep. No, I agree. There is no gray area for police when other police ask them to come and do violence on their behalf for any reason whatsoever.
Right. I think this is probably a good time to queue up the interview. Actually, one more thing before we queue up the interview. Another really fun thing that I overheard a cop say was, it was Mayday Morales. She was going, can we see a warrant, please? Where's the warrant? Where's the warrant? Where's the warrant? One of the officers is trying to tell her, he's like, ma'am, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know what you want me to say. It's federal. It's federal. And Mayday was like, yeah, I know it's fucking federal. Where's the warrant? And then another officer walks by and says, they don't need a warrant, which is really a very encouraging thing to hear a Worcester police officer say, that's how they're processing the situation. So
yeah.
That the due process of a resident of their city is just of no concern to them. And they're just operating on this principle that they don't need to verify, or as soon as it's been deemed federal, they have to help, and that's it, right? There's no other sort of intervention that can happen there. Another police officer was like trying to calm the crowd initially in the beginning of it, and he was like, no, listen, just stop. He was pointing at a woman holding a baby and crying, and he goes, stop. They'll explain. They'll explain. This is all a misunderstanding. They'll explain. Not one agent from ICE explained anything or said anything. So either the cop was lying on their behalf, or he was under the impression that, ICE was going to explain this to them eventually. Neither of those things happened. Yeah, this is a hinge point moment. This is one of the most significant moments, maybe the most significant moment of my career covering Worcester. We are at a really, really crucial inflection point. And it's scary and it's overwhelming. But I also am so fucking proud of, there's like the people that showed up demonstrated what community means, And the Worcester police officers that arrived to stop that demonstrated that they don't know what community means and they don't want it. And
we have a community.
Everyone taking the police officer's side on this, including the fucking city manager, understands nothing about what community is. And, we have something that they fundamentally lack. Their souls are going to wither and die on the vine of this. Ours only grow stronger. So there's no sense in, there's no give and take here. There's no, you made some good points about police can't fucking blah blah blah. Police can do this. No. They let ICE abduct someone and stop the community from stopping that. That's it. That is inherently just hostile to the community that was on display. But the fact that they were put in that position to show that of themselves, to show who they really are, it took a tremendously brave act of community and solidarity to expose that circumstance. So we didn't stop the SUV from leaving, but it got us to this inflection point. And I think everyone involved on the right side should feel a tremendous amount of pride in that.
You are.
You don't know who you are until you get tested. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, you all are the reason that this is a story, a national story. It wouldn't be if it wasn't for all the people who showed up and tried to intervene and make this as difficult as possible for ICE to abduct this woman from our community. You are the reason why every elected official in this city is going to have to take a position on what happened, and we're all going to have to assess what they have to say. You're the reason that I think Joe Petty is in an incredible pickle over this. I would say, other than Attell, who's facing a lot of heaviness, and Ashley, I think, who are facing a lot of heaviness in a different kind of way. You were all the reason that that all of those things happened, and Bill, you're right. We have a community, and in our community, we take care of all of us, and the police have a community, and in their community, they take care of themselves and each other only. I would like to think that some of these cops went to see their moms on Mother's Day and had even a moment of reflection of the Mother's Day that wasn't happening on Eureka. because of the intervention, the completely unnecessary intervention, violent intervention of cops to take a mother from her children. I don't know that they did, but you will never have a fully formed soul, in my opinion, if this is the kind of thing you can get up every morning and do, and that's an advantage that we all have. And when it comes to like, what can we do about this stuff? We've talked about all the, let's not have a city council that codifies this behavior come January. But also, what can you do? Show up. Take the risk. That's if you feel like you can put your body on the line, put your body on the line. That's what you can do, and that's what people did.
Exactly. And we'll put links in the description. There's two groups that are good to get involved with. Visit their website, sign up for updates. They're going to be putting on rapid response trainings and other events. So one of them is Luce, Luce, and the other is Neighbor to Neighbor. We will we'll put some links to that down at the bottom. But anyway, Chris, I'm kind of falling apart. I'm kind of losing it here. So let's just get to the interview.
Fair enough, man.
God. Yeah. So this is an interview that I recorded with Ellen Shemitz on Friday. We had just gotten back from a press conference held at the YWCA, where the people from Neighbor to Neighbor spoke. The head of Neighbor to Neighbor, I can't remember how to pronounce her name, but she was great, and she put forward the amazing idea of the city needs to be compensated for the police time spent helping ICE, which I think is a delightful thing to be pushing for. We spent a lot of tax dollars making sure that a member of our community could get abducted.
Yep, opened ourselves up to a lot of liability too,
and we continue to do so. But that's Worcester's specialty. Oh shit! Okay, one more thing before we get to the interview. There's no good way to break this up, so we'll just play the interview after we're done talking. We got to talk about ICE's statement, dude. Did you read this yet?
I did, but we should. I think we should really read it into the record right here so that nobody misses it, because man, is it really something. This is a federal law enforcement agency. This is how they spoke. The level of professionalism they chose to speak about this incident with.
Right. So I'm reading from Spectrum News, who got this. It seems like the same exact statement that the Telegram got. This is not a statement that was released publicly, but looks to be individually to individual reporters who I assume put in like a request for comment in this, and it came out at about 11 a.m. on Saturday, so 2 days after the kidnapping. It begins. The target of this ICE operation was a violent criminal illegal alien, Ferreira de Oliveira. She was arrested by local police for assault and battery with a dangerous weapon and assault and battery on a pregnant victim. I'm going to pause there to just say that the Boston Globe, me, Mark Henderson, two other people that I know of, and I have not seen it confirmed anywhere else, that there's no record of this. I will leave it open to be proven wrong, but no one has been able to find what ICE is talking about here. And ICE has been found routinely to lie and mischaracterize and overstate in press releases like this. But you know, that's there in the first sentence because that is like the rhetorical line where that's all like a certain sort of crank needs to hear to be totally fine with a kidnapping like this. So it is very, very important that we find out whether or not that claim is true, because if not, that means that it was just putting fucking chum in the water, right? And very effectively putting chum in the water. And the correction of that record, taking the chum back out of the water, you can't take the chum back out of the water. And they know that. They fucking know that. So we'll see. We'll just see. Second sentence of the statement. District Councilor for the City of Worcester. I didn't even notice this at first. They don't even use her first name. It's District Councilor for the City of Worcester Haxhiaj pulled a political stunt and incited chaos by trying to obstruct law enforcement. ICE officers and local police regained control of the situation. An ICE arrest Ferreira de Oliveira. That's a typo there. They said, and ICE arrest Ferreira de Oliveira.
Their typo, not ours.
Guess they can't even proofread this shit. Yeah, their typo, right. Moving on. But also not moving on yet because that third sentence there, ICE officers and local police regained control of the situation. ICE seems to be categorizing this as a collaboration. The community is categorizing this as a collaboration. So what the fuck is Eric Batista talking about, right? Anyway, the previous administration's open border policies allowed this criminal to illegally enter our country in August of 2022. Which is a loaded thing to say, because how do they know exactly when if it was illegal?
And also, like, it's just, this is where we get into what we can say definitively is not true, and a narrative of the Trump MAGA contingent. The United States under Joe Biden did not, in fact, have an open borders policy. It had one of the closedest border policies that we've ever had. People who should have been let in to seek asylum were not. Deportations were happening on a daily basis, et cetera, et cetera. A member of that administration, the vice president, was literally telling people, do not come here. It just isn't true. But anyway.
And this August of 2022 thing is illustrative, potentially, of the biggest story behind this ICE thing to me, like in general nationally, is that they are now operating off of an AI-driven, Palantir-built database and seem to be following that database blindly, and we know almost nothing about that database.
Yes.
That is a convergence of tech and fascism that is unprecedented in human history and happens in complete obscurity. I mean, that's like some Star Wars fucking Empire shit. You know what I mean? That is some fucking Sith Lord shit.
Except also powered by AI and done in kind of the sloppiest, slapped together way as well. Not even done effectively because they don't give a shit. They don't care if it's the right people. They're out for people.
It's like how the stormtroopers can't ever fucking hit their target, right? It's like the evil designs of the people at the very top, like Peter Thiel, are being carried out by complete buffoons who just also happen to be Nazis.
Yes.
Anyway, moving on to the second statement of that paragraph. Thanks to President Trump. Hey, speaking of fucking morons, ready? Thanks to President Trump and Secretary Noem, this criminal is off our streets. There you go. There you have it. That's the only substantive shit we've been given by ICE on this. In unprovable, because there's no date of birth or jurisdiction, an unproven claim that this woman had previously racked up the sort of charges you would get if you got into a messy fight one night. And that, City Councilor Haxhiaj is named, in this as inciting chaos, which is crazy and terrifying. And, a little hint at the work of this database. But now, Chris, I'm going to need you to cue up Fortunate Son or maybe Better Run to the Jungle or any other sort of car dealership style song you can think of here for how I read the last paragraph of this statement, which I'm going to read in the affect of like a used car salesman. Parents who are here illegally can take control of their departure through the CBP Home app. The Trump administration is giving parents illegally in the country a chance to take full control of their departure and self-deport, with the potential ability to return the legal right way and come back to live the American dream. Are you kidding me? They ended this statement with a plug for their self-deportation app. What the fuck are we doing here?
Take control of your self-deportation today.
Jesus Christ.
Operators are standing by.
Even, say what you want. Say what you want about the tenets of National Socialism. At least it's an ethos, right? This is all just a fucking grift built on a grift. They don't give a shit. They're just trying to fucking get users for their app. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You can't help but laugh sometimes, right? Because you need to.
CCR needs to write a song for this.
But oh my God. I can't, honestly, I cannot wait to put the music under that reading of that. This would be so sick. Anyway, let's, I don't know. Chris, do you have any thoughts before we just jump over to the interview, or what do you think?
Before we jump over to the interview, since I think we might just close out with the interview anyway, I just wanted to say Happy Mother's Day. And that I've been thinking a lot about Mother's Day in the context of what just happened. And we've already talked about it a little bit in the ways that it's heartbreaking. But I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. A lot of the people who were right there on the line trying to protect this mom were other moms. That's a trend I've seen a lot when I was working in the criminal legal system, spending a lot of time in the lobby at the jail or at court, seeing who shows up for people when they're going through their toughest times, and how it's almost always moms, women in general, sisters, aunts, grandmas, but all moms, certainly. I want to say Happy Mother's Day to my mom, who actually listens to this podcast and will hear it because she's a good mom and listens to my podcast. I have no idea why she does that. But yeah, anyway, Happy Mother's Day. Moms are awesome.
Chris's mom. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to my mom. Happy Mother's Day to Ashley Spring and Attell and all the other moms that were down there. And I actually don't know if Ellen is a mom, but we'll give it to her. Either a real mom or an honorary mom that you're about to hear from. And I just have to say that the fact that Eric Batista would get rid of a person with the obvious mental capacities and eloquence that you're about to hear should really be all you need to know about Eric Batista's dominion over City Hall up until this point. It's just baffling. So anyway, this is fun. We've never done a super extended intro to an interview before, but I think in this case it was appropriate, and it's sort of appropriate to let that interview play us out.
Yeah. Roll that beautiful Ellen footage.
All right, I am joined by the late great chair.
Still current.
Wait, hold on. Well, let me get through the spiel first, but then I got to ask you about that because I have my facts wrong, and I think somebody at the press conference we were just at had their facts wrong as well. Ellen Shemitz, chair of the Human Rights Commission. I said former. She says current. Wow, starting this off with a huge faux pas. Ellen, we wanted to have you on the podcast this week because. Your abrupt non-renewal of your term, or whatever the legal word is for being on the Human Rights Commission, was taken away by City Manager Eric Batista. I believe that was on Monday, right?
Correct.
I regret to tell you, you're no longer the week's biggest story because we had an absolutely atrocious display of police state machinations. Yesterday, around 11 o'clock on Eureka Ave, it was an ICE deportation, and then a subsequent Worcester police response that, you can't make this stuff up, folks, resulted in the arrest of the woman who was being deported's daughter, who now faces a charge of reckless child endangerment. Pretty gross. Pretty. I don't know. I was there. I wrote about it. I still can't wrap my head around it. But me and Ellen were just at a press conference held at the YWCA with the local branch of the NAACP and Christian King, Atil Haxhiaj. Louis Ojeda showed up. Robin Kennedy was there. And Ellen, you asked a great set of questions. I might have to clip that audio and throw it in right here. But I guess first question, what was your overall impression of the press conference?
Well, I guess I would start by saying that I don't think it's an issue of one story displacing or superseding another. Mm-hmm. I think it's the same story. Mm-hmm. I think they have the same root, which is that we're living in a city where there is not, which does not reflect the underlying laws and regulations. We are not actually advancing and protecting and embracing our human rights policy. Instead, we're flaunting it, and there doesn't seem to be accountability for the same. So what happened should get all the attention it is getting. It is horrendous. It is not consistent, I don't believe, with who we are. It's not consistent with the rule of law, and it's not consistent with the representations that were made by our city leadership that they would not support ICE actions in Worcester. Instead, they did exactly that. The police were called in, and rather than trying to keep the peace and protect the community, they supported the ICE intervention and actually harmed the community. So we have another situation where we're not supporting and advancing that which our laws calls for, that which represents the best of us, and there's no accountability for the failure to do the same.
Right, and that's, to the best of my memory, that's exactly the question you asked at the press conference, and the sort of long story short, the answer was, well, charter change, because it's I don't know. I would love to just sort of sit on this idea of the lack of accountability for a while, and ask you if you think it's like a structure thing or is it a culture thing, right? Because what I've been working on for the past 4 or 5 years at Worcester Sucks is that like the culture is going to spill into the structure, and we have I think it's becoming increasingly apparent we have a culture that of a political class that's afraid and or deferent to the police department. I'm not making you say that, but I'm wondering what you think about an idea like that.
I don't think it's an either or. I don't think it's a matter of is it a culture thing or is it a systems thing? It's clearly to me both of them, right?
Yeah.
So we have a structure that puts tremendous power, authority, autonomy, and lack of accountability in a city manager. And that systemically poses all sorts of problems, which are there pretty clear solutions to if we want to embrace them. But we also have a culture wherein those accountability measures which do exist currently without any change are not being exercised. So, for example, we have members on the city council who are putting forth requests to the city manager for more transparency about police policy and practice, for support of the Human Rights Commission's work to provide that accountability, calling for a civilian oversight organization, calling for all sorts of changes that passed, by the ways, many of them, not the civilian oversight, but many of them by unanimous votes. But then there's no follow through. The city manager doesn't do what the city council votes for, and the city council doesn't come back and hold the city manager accountable for that. So that is a culture issue, not a systems issue. Are the current measures adequate? I would argue no, but maybe they would be if they were fully utilized.
Yeah, I mean, the Human Rights Commission is such a good sort of test case for this system that's entirely underutilized. And like to explain that is difficult, right? Because it gets into this terrain of like I watched the last meeting of the Human Rights Commission, which I thought was fantastic.
I'm sorry.
I thought it was fantastic. It was palpable how you were trying to get done more than the time allowed. You're like, let's move this along. Let's keep it going. And I couldn't help but laugh a couple times. One of your colleagues, Jacqueline Yost, right? Am I saying that right?
Jacqueline Yang.
Yang. Oh my
Yang.
God. Where did I get Yost? Yost is, whatever. Jacqueline Yang. We were voting on some accountability items and she was just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like not like completely like expecting for nothing to come back because it's been kind of remarkable to see all of the attempts at accountability that the Human Rights Commission has been making and how they've just been sort of unilaterally thwarted by the city manager. And I guess that's in line with what you were saying about how, you know, the council puts a million things in front of the city manager and they might get like 500 back, right? And they're kind of content with that. It's a weird culture thing, but
not only they're content with it, but the way things currently work, the most power that the council has, right, is in hiring a city manager. And to my mind, they punted that by not doing a nationwide search. That is not, by the way, a reflection on the current city manager.
No.
It is a reflection on the fact that he may well be the best person for the job, but we'll never know because there wasn't a full search. So they punted that. And then their next most important chore, responsibility, duty is the annual evaluation. And that annual evaluation should be 360 degrees, have standards, should have accountability, should be tied to an annual plan, should, bless you, should reflect what the city manager indicates are his priorities and what the council asks him to prioritize. But it does none of that. So if the city council is asking for these reports and they're not coming back, if the city council is asking if the city council is asking the manager, tell us your priorities, and he says, my priorities are civil rights, equity, diversity. That's why I'm creating this new department in my city. That's why I'm prioritizing this. And for 2 years, there's no director hired. But then he's still given not only passing grades, but excellent grades.
Yeah.
That suggests that the council is not fulfilling its core responsibility, which is oversight of the manager.
Right. At the last evaluation, Tu Nguyen hit him with the needs improvement, which was deserved, in my opinion. And that was like Tu had arrived naked, right? Like it was a social faux pas to like use that space to actually apply accountability to the city manager, because I mean I've watched 4 of those now, and you know it's not too much different in any other municipality that I've covered, but this one that evaluation thing is like a showing of fealty almost. It's like it's an opportunity to ladle praise more than it is to like really do a forensic substantive evaluation to be like, where is stuff going right? Where is it going wrong? You know, where are you meeting expectations? Because they don't really set expectations either.
And moreover, that shouldn't be seen as a hostile or confrontational action. Look, I've been the executive director of statewide nonprofits, 3 different ones. And in all of them, there was an emphasis on using that evaluation to make sure the organization, or in this case, the city, was moving in the right direction. It wasn't confrontational. It was making sure we were mission aligned.
Right.
That should be welcomed if indeed we're trying to make sure that the city is moving forward in the direction that the only elected officials, the council, believe it should be going.
Yeah. I mean, if indeed is doing a hell of a lot of heavy lifting in that statement, in my opinion, but I won't make you go there. I will make you go, maybe we should, for people who are unaware, give a rough overview of the circumstances that led to your departure from the Human Rights Commission, because I think that story and the hiring, the way that we tend to hire city managers is also kind of the same story.
Right.
Yeah. I know there's a lot to it, but let's just start at like when you received the notice that you wouldn't get your term renewed.
So, sure. Let me state at the outset that the city manager is completely within his rights to make a decision who he appoints and whether he reappoints them. That's perfectly clear. There's absolutely no question. There's no contest about that. And the city manager was wholly within his rights in making the decision not to give me a second term, not to give the vice chair a third term. The question is why it was done, whether there was transparency about it, and whether there was accountability for the decision. So apparently the city manager claimed, or has stated in an interview, and then again stated it before city council, that the reason he didn't reappoint was 2. He wanted to assure diversity on the commission, and he wanted to give other people a chance to serve. The problem is the facts don't align with that, right? So the last commissioner he chose not to reappoint was actually the only member of the First Nation who was on the commission. He was a man of color. He brought unique experience. He was a first responder, and he was very engaged in our police oversight work. He was replaced with a cis white guy who's now a current commissioner on HRC. The new commissioner is fabulous, by the way. That's really not the issue. The change did not advance diversity. There was an applicant to the commission who is a Liberian immigrant who was approved by the CAC. Interestingly, an immigrant who had an encounter with the police department where he alleges racially profiled, inappropriately arrested, and it actually led to a rather large settlement with the City of Worcester that we, the taxpayers, paid. One could argue, and certainly the CAC knew this and advised that he should be appointed, that would be a good person to have on the commission. He was turned over. 2 different applicants to the commission told me that when they met with the city manager, they were told by him he did not want them working on police oversight. And when one of them pushed back, that person wasn't given a seat on the commission. Moreover, in terms of the claim that it was to have turnover, so lots of people are waiting to serve, there are over 50 or 60 open seats on city boards and commissions right now.
Yeah.
And we on the Human Rights Commission have had an open seat for over a year, and we have passed numerous motions requesting the city manager fill that seat because it's hard to reach quorum. So I have no problem with the city manager exercising his own judgment, but we should know why he did it. And the problem is, we need to have a vibrant and engaged human rights commission because it's the only public body right now that is providing any oversight, that is making sure that human rights are protected. And yet we've got this like 2-year history with the city manager of small and not so smart actions to try to undermine our ability to be effective. That's what's problematic. And the city council has voted unanimously on more than one occasion to ask the human rights, to ask the city manager to honor our priorities, to ask the city manager to share with them the monthly memos we give with policy and practice recommendations. And he ignores those.
Yeah, it's almost like maybe the majority of the council was pretty safe in the knowledge that they could vote for that unanimously and that it wouldn't happen, which would be interesting. That would suggest something. I don't know. I don't know what that suggests. It could be anything, but I don't know. It does seem like there's a pretty clear pattern of the city manager saying he doesn't want the HRC to do police oversight, and then the HRC members who try the hardest to do police oversight end up not staying on the board very long.
It's not just that, though, Bill. I don't know that he wants us to do anything because he says, for example, that he wants us to focus on helping to create a process wherein the Office of Human Rights and Accountability can receive resident complaints of civil rights violations and can investigate them, mediate them, have hearings about them. And that is something that we actually have been pushing to try to do. And we are met with very little support until recently by staff. We've even been told by the now current director of human rights and accessibility that she didn't believe we should be doing that work at all, despite the fact that the city manager said it was his priority for us. So there is this consistent undermining of our ability to move forward, whatever work we're doing. We have said we wanted to create subcommittees so that we could have a subcommittee about civil rights, a subcommittee about police policy and practice, a subcommittee about housing and homelessness issues. We were told, nope, you can't do that. There's not enough staffing. We can't support that. There would have to be public meetings. We've asked to have more than one meeting a month so we can move our work forward. No, we can't do that. So it's not just the appointment issue. It's whether or not there is a willingness in the city to support civil human rights oversight work. And the fact that there doesn't seem to be would be bad enough if it weren't for the fact that the city manager has said over and over that it's his top priority. So it's that inconsistency which is frustrating, and then the failure to be held accountable for the same. Again, who serves on that commission? His choice. But one would hope that that choice is guided by a desire to support the human rights policy of the city, which is beautifully worded and beautifully written and should be upheld.
Right. Yeah, that's painting a pretty clear picture of bureaucracy. And, we don't have to put this solely on the city manager. But we can say that Eric Batista is like a product of and has spent most of his professional career in this one bureaucracy. This kind of looks to me like a bureaucracy that's resistant to change, and like doesn't really want oversight and reflexively is opposed to it.
Right. So check this out. So at the last city council meeting, we had two city councilors, the vice chair and Councilor Haxhiaj, saying, we know you have full control of this decision, but we want to urge you to reconsider it and make sure that the decision is based on what's best for the city. Another city councilor got up and said, you're out of line even raising these issues because those folks are actually employees of the city. We're volunteers. They're employees of the city. You're not allowed to even ask about this.
Right.
Thankfully, the city solicitor said, actually, that's not true. They're not employees for this purpose. And They can certainly ask questions, although the decision is that of the city manager. I have heard some whispering, and you don't want to give air to rumors, but I just want to put it out there in the hopes that it never will be proven to be true, that the city solicitor may be reconsidering that opinion, and that supposedly there may be some statement that city councilors aren't even able to ask about appointments. If that were to be true, that would mean that they are saying that it would be beyond the rules of the city charter for an elected official to ask the appointed official if they are actually acting consistent with human rights policy, if they actually are advancing the mission of that commission. They can't ask about personnel issues, but they certainly can and should be able to ask about whether our appointed leader is taking actions and making decisions based on the correct standards and the correct goals, the correct values.
Right. See, okay, so this gets into the territory of a bone that I haven't picked much publicly, but it rattles around in my head quite a bit. The general trend of a city council that's like gleefully cedes its authority, which is weird, right? Because even like the worst faith image of a city councilor, that they're just like narcissistic and they want power and influence and they're totally out for themselves, right? Like just apolitical, just Machiavellian, whatever. Picture the worst city councilor in your head. Why would that person cede authority? Like, why would they allow the law department to say, actually, no, you can't talk about appointments? Why aren't they up in arms about that?
Okay, that's a structural issue, though, right? Because think about it. The way it's currently set up right now, city council is part-time. I believe, I may be wrong about this, there are only 2 full-time staff people for all the city councilors.
Yeah.
That number may not be correct, but
3.
it's in that area. 3, okay. And they do not have independent counsel.
Right.
So the city solicitor is hired by, reviewed by, fired by the city manager. But the city solicitor is giving the city council advice. How is that a system that is balanced? That's the part where I say there are things that we can do. I know that there are a lot of people who say we should have a strong mayor system. I actually don't have an opinion about that. I think the Plan E form of government can work, but it can only work if there is a balance between the executive branch and the legislative branch. And the way it's set up right now, we don't have that balance.
Yeah.
Moreover, in terms of your question, why would a city councilor cede power? I never try to understand or guess about people's motives, but you can't, if you don't have responsibility for actions, you can't be held responsible. So in some ways, it's safer not to be out front.
Well, I guess if you're just happy to be there, then I mean, Lord knows I've shirked some responsibilities in my day, and I've just been happy to be in the room. That I can understand that, but it just seems like that's but
not now, right? So here's the issue. We are at a time in our nation's history when human rights and civil rights are under attack, and when executive branch overreach is like front and center. That's a problem. Why would we not be worried about it when we see that being replicated locally? And let's go back to what happened, because who serves on the Human Rights Commission? I have enjoyed serving, and I think we've been able to do good work together. That commission will continue to do good work. So ultimately, that's a story, whatever. What's more important is the system that allowed that to happen is also the system that allowed a police department to go in, to not take action that was protective of the community, and then to have a city manager to make a statement saying they were doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
The Human Rights Commission and city councilors have been asking for years now for there to be more oversight, more stricter policies, and stricter training
Right.
about de-escalation in particular, and about requiring police officers, when they think about the totality of the circumstances, which they have to consider when there is any use of force, to include in that environmental and individual awareness. What is going on for that person? Your mother is being taken away by ICE. What are the possible emotional, behavioral issues that may be causing a person to act in a certain way that you should consider when you consider what kind of intervention is appropriate? We've been asking for that. There's been pushback from the police. Had we had that kind of mandate, and had it been not only in policy, but then integrated into mandatory training, not just for new officers, but for everybody on the force, then maybe we wouldn't have seen what happened today. So there are real life implications for this.
Right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
a little bit fired up here, and I
No,
apologize for that.
I love it. I love the fired up energy because I need it personally. It was extremely deflating for me. Not that I'd be naive to expect anything different at this point, but to see the city manager just run cover for the cops in the way that he did, and what he said, I haven't reported on. There's things that I haven't reported on yet from what I witnessed on Thursday. One was not an interview, but like I talked one-on-one, like on the record with a police higher up. I can't remember right now whether he was like a staff sergeant, whatever. He was like the person in charge at the scene. And he kept saying, no, we weren't assisting ICE. And I kept saying, brother, look around. How can you rationalize this as not assisting ICE in an arrest? And he said, with it didn't seem like he was lying. He said there was a public disturbance. there was an unlawful assembly and a public disturbance, and just a total like wall put up between there being people in the street and the reason why. And he was like, we need to restore the peace. And I was like, well, the neighborhood seemed to be extremely peaceful before ICE showed up. Why did you restore the peace in this, in the way that also helped ICE do what seems to pretty clearly be an unlawful
and
detention?
That's both the policy, the practice, and the training issue. Because without getting too much into the weeds, that's exactly the environmental assessment that best practice policies and training call for. What is happening here? What started it? What are the emotions? And what can we do to diffuse it in a way that protects the rights of everybody involved? If ICE created the situation, then trying to diffuse it by arresting people implicated by that is not consistent with totality of the circumstances. It is reactive, it is not thoughtful, and it is not based on being able to step back, de-escalate, ask ICE agents to slow down, ask them to give the young woman a chance to, if that detention by ICE was appropriate, and I don't know, I don't know the facts behind it, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt for a moment.
Sure.
Let's say that was an appropriate detention. There may be people who get upset I even say that. I don't know the facts. Let's just say that it was appropriate.
Yeah, hypothetical.
How was it carried out? And was it carried out in a way that we would support? And did the police, the way they intervened, rather than de-escalating and trying to give two women, a young woman and her mother, a chance to separate appropriately, rather than insisting that ICE treat our community members, our residents, with dignity, they instead turned on them. That's not consistent with a police force that's serving us. I'm sorry, it just isn't.
Yeah. It's really just, I don't know. It's so dark, but something about the way that you put it, just, I don't know. I had to chuckle because, like, they were not there for the community. Nothing I observed indicated that was the case. Case in point, best example, they're opening up the car door. And a police officer comes, steps in between the ICE agents and the community members around the car door. First of all, tells a young woman to stop crying, which is crazy. And then says, stop. Wait, they'll explain. He doesn't know that they'll explain. And they didn't fucking explain. You can swear on this podcast, by the way. They did not fucking explain anything. They did not say anything. They just shoved people and tried to get the car away. And as they're trying to get the car away, now I'm getting fired up. Now I'm getting ripshit. As they're getting the car away, I catch in my ear on the police scanner somebody being like, "Hey, do we have an escort? Do we have an escort for these? They use
federal agents?"
No, they used a really weird term. Do they have an escort for these marshals or something? Like, marshals? What are you talking about? But like, it was just so obvious that they were there to help. I mean, and that's what drives me crazy, because just say it. Just say that's why you were there. Stop lying.
But again, I just want to be clear. This isn't about those police officers, right? It is true. Police have a really challenging job. And if they aren't given really clear guidance about the parameters and about the expectations, then it's almost impossible for them to do that job well. And they are not given those parameters. They are not given those expectations. And there is a defensiveness about if you create standards or you lay out these expectations, you're somehow boxing us in. Indeed, I believe it's the contrary. It's empowering them to do the job that the community actually wants them to do. And indeed, that should be what they do. Police officers have tremendous power, tremendous imbalance of power when they're interacting with the community. And it's easy for that imbalance of power to go awry if they aren't provided with really clear standards and really clear training.
Right.
And it seems that that's not happening.
Well, actually, that's an observation that I haven't, that's in my notes but hasn't appeared anywhere yet, is I do vividly remember right now a short moment of an officer asking his superior as they're like pushing people away from the car. He's just going like, "What are we doing here? What are we doing here? What do you want us to do? What are we doing here?" And the guy that he was trying to get orders from was just shaking his head. He's like, I don't know. Right? Like, they were very confused.
Right. And that's kind of the point I was trying to make at that meeting today before I asked my question, which was, this was not unforeseeable. We knew this was going to happen. Maybe not this particular incident, but we knew that ICE was coming and that they were taking these really aggressive approaches, which appear to be inconsistent with due process, which appear to be inconsistent with really commonly held democratic values. What are we going to do about it? There was time for us as a community, and certainly for leadership of the city and leadership of the police force to ask hard questions and make important decisions about what are we going to do when this happens.
Right.
It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And they should have been prepared, and they should have prepared their officers. And that preparation and that response should have reflected our values and our deeply held belief in due process, in civil rights, in human rights, in accountability.
Right. Here's an idea.
Man, I'm on a soapbox. I apologize.
Hey, no, this podcast is a soapbox that you were invited to stand on. So just own that. Just stand on the soapbox. No apologies needed. Yeah. So that's very true, and it's very clear how we failed to have that conversation. First thing I did when I got back to my desk yesterday is I go clickety clackety, City of Worcester agendas. I find the meeting where the chief and Joe Petty and Christian King talked about ICE. And I'm like, I remember it. I remember him saying, we are not going to help ICE. And then, you listen to it and you're like, oh, well, what the chief was saying was we are not going to effect a civil arrest because we legally can't. But it was contextualized by the city manager and the mayor as like, oh, thank God, see, nothing, no problem here. And I guess it was, I mean, I certainly wasn't thinking it at the time, but a great question at that time would have been, well, okay, so what happens if community members try to stop ICE from taking one of their neighbors? What are you going to do in that situation? And we have our answer now. We know exactly what they're going to fucking do in that situation. But to your point earlier, like, couldn't some sort of policy be created around ensuring that specific way that they responded does not happen again, right?
Right. Right.
That would be up to the city manager.
Correct. Well, I mean, the chief of police could recommend a policy, could create a new policy around how to interact with ICE. But again, I that ideally would be coming from council in the first instance, city manager in the second instance, saying, we are concerned about the changed political environment, or even the, I can't find the word I'm looking for, but we are concerned about the current political environment and we want to make sure that we're prepared. We are asking you to create a new policy so that we are sure that all of your officers are properly equipped to deal with the situation that will likely happen. And it's not too late for that. That could and should still happen now. The statement of the city manager is of concern because it appeared to indicate a sense that everything was done appropriately.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Yeah, that's it. And it's to do that. What are you gonna do? And kind of put the onus on the people that tried to stop it as being the problem, which is like kind of tacitly baked into the way he framed it. And then in the same breath, be like, the city of Worcester cares about you, and we will never blah 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 blah. Whatever he said, basically the same thing that he said at the January City Council meeting, where he's like, Worcester police officers don't follow ICE orders, and he can, wiggle around in the legalese of what effecting arrest means and what assisting means, and come up with an explanation that lets him sleep well at night. But no one that was there, the cops included, I think, are under a different impression than the Worcester police helped ICE deport somebody. I mean, that is what they did. The car wasn't driving away. Worcester police showed up. The car drove away, and then they arrested a few people on the side as an added little fuck you.
And handled a young woman who I heard in the press conference today weighs no more than 80 pounds. Handled her really aggressively. How is that ever appropriate? How is that not inappropriate use of force? And what complaints are going to be filed about that? And how is that complaint going to be handled? And who's going to be held responsible? Because that's a whole nother thing. We don't have oversight when there is overreach by the police. We're not seeing accountability for that. And there are many examples of that, which you and others have done a wonderful job of documenting, which we have tried to do our own review of. But for 2 years now, the city manager has refused to provide us with the police investigation of allegations of misconduct. Materials that we are entitled to under the plain language of the city ordinance, but which we haven't been able to enforce because guess what? We're not allowed to hire outside counsel to enforce our own rights. So again, another structural thing. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is some of the members of the HRC asked me to give a brief presentation on best practices for civilian review boards so that we would be ready when the Worcester Research Bureau comes out with its data on civilian review boards. We would have a context by which we could hear that, understand it, and then provide some feedback of our own about practice and policy recommendations. Mm-hmm. And there was, I read a lot of different pieces of literature about it, and they said you need to be careful no matter what kind of civilian review board you establish, whether it's a review board, an advisory board, an auditoring board, whatever type it is, that you're not undermined by these really common things like inadequate enforcement mechanisms to exercise powers that are established by ordinance, like lack of access to records despite clear authority, like lack of support for the oversight body by leaving seats unfilled so they can't reach quorum, by lack of independent legal representation. Well, guess what? Those are absolutely the same laundry list of problems that we have encountered as the city has failed to support the efforts of an all volunteer board that gives very generously of its time and is constantly facing roadblocks in simply trying to ensure that we meet the mission, the duties, and responsibilities which we agreed to do when we agreed to serve.
Yeah. I wish Chris was here because he has the best way of summing up both of our overall positions that we are not terribly optimistic about a civilian review board proposal. We do not ascribe much. I don't think that is a solution in the current political reality, and I will tell you why.
Truly hope we get one. Okay, and I want to. Let me just say one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I truly hope we get one. The HRC actually wrote a report that we sent to the city manager and to council. No response from anyone on council, by the way, and no response certainly from the city manager, saying that we hope that they would prioritize the creation of a commission and why we thought that would be so important. But the reality is, let's say it's created and let's say it's given really broad authority. Much like the Human Rights Commission, which, yes, has subpoena authority to get records, et cetera, which, yes, has the ability to hold hearings and to conduct investigations. But if the city chooses to undermine that board, as they have chose to undermine us, then that board will be as effective as we've been in advancing policy. Now, I don't want to be totally negative. I do believe that the HRC has been able to raise up issues and give visibility to issues, thanks in part, thank you to the press that have covered our work. But that shouldn't be all we're doing.
Right.
And that is my concern, is that even if we get a civilian review board, and I want to hear why you think we're not going to, even if we do get it, unless there is either a city council that is really willing to hold our city manager accountable and or charter review and change that equalizes the powers held by the legislative and executive branch, then I worry about how effective that commission can be. But please tell me why it's not going to happen.
Well, it's going to happen. We will have a vote from the city council on a civilian review board proposal. The civilian review board proposal that gets through council is pretty much guaranteed to be the impotent and useless by design civilian review board that you've illustrated. I mean, Worcester is 20 years behind every other city on everything. We have lots of data to go off of where civilian review boards work, where they don't. The reason why I'm confident saying that as like a future fact is the public safety subcommittee. It would have to go through that 3-person body. That's two of them have already said they don't want a civilian review board, right? So, what are you gonna do about that? Besides, you'd have to get rid of Mayor Joe Petty because he appoints those people there.
And we have a city manager who stated at the city council meeting last time that the only oversight body that exists right now, Human Rights Commission, doesn't have oversight over the police department.
Yes.
When in fact, the ordinance states that we are responsible for looking at policies and practices as well as discipline to make sure that it doesn't violate the human rights policy. How is that not oversight? We don't oversight over everything. We have oversight to make sure that there aren't violations of human rights.
Right. And you know, Ellen, pop quiz. What is the municipal department most involved with rights and the denial, seizing, and affording of rights?
Right. And how much taxpayer money has gone into settling cases because that department has been found or they have settled to avoid a finding of a violation of said rights?
Yeah. Yep. they're not paying for it though. So, Jesus, it is such a frustrating problem, and it is so. I just have to say, it is so goddamn frustrating. I've spoken to a lot of people over the years about police stuff. I sort of know what I'm talking about. I have met a small handful of people who know more about what they're talking about. And you are one of those people. And a lot of people in power in the city are not even close. And why? We have the Department of Justice coming in here because our police department is so unaccountable. And our city manager is telling, like, you and Liz, I listened to Liz. Liz was great. Did the whole
Fabulous.
report, that whole report on the co-response and looking at what other cities do in terms of pairing social workers with cops.
Exactly.
I thought that was great. And it's like, you have been punished for being too good at what you are tasked to do. And the city manager gets to say that this thing that was created in 1977 specifically for police oversight is not about police oversight, and all the city councilors just nod their head like, yes, he must be right. And then they try to shut down Attell for even bringing it up, saying that's a personnel issue, you can't go there. What are they even doing there? They're just putting on a reality show for the senior center.
But then unanimously pass a motion asking the city manager to provide a report on co-response models.
Yeah, right. It's like, okay. Yeah, they just vote for that stuff because it's like less contentious than not voting for it, and they know the city manager won't do it.
And we just did a deep dive on them. And if we were asked to, we would be happy to create a subcommittee and to do an even deeper dive and do a huge literature review. I mean, you've got people on that commission who are dedicated and who have really important skill sets, who have public policy experience, who have legal experience. Okay, there were 2 lawyers with criminal defense backgrounds who applied to be on the Human Rights Commission in the last year. One of them is now a law professor. She did capital cases. One of them is a legal aid attorney who does veterans affairs work. They both were told they did not have the qualifications and the skills to serve on the commission. This is at a time when you have the city manager saying he wants the commission to really lean in to creating a civil rights complaint investigation and hearings process. But lawyers would not be appropriate members of the commission and don't have the skills or experience, then who does?
Oh my God. It's just like you're watching in real time the way that the mediocrity of this place reinforces itself, right?
So what do we do? So
what do we do?
I would say, so what do we do? We go to those subcommittee hearings where they're going to be working on the city manager evaluation. And we are really clear that that evaluation has to be mission-based, strategic plan-based, measurable, accountable. And when it isn't, we point that out in the press. And we go all in on asking in the budget why there isn't sufficient staffing for city council. We ask questions about why isn't there independent counsel as one of those staff people.
Yeah. I mean, we'd be getting somewhere then. Instead, we're just, everyone's just playing into like a certain kayfabe right now that like what the city council does matters. Like functionally, it doesn't. Here's an idea. How about this? What if you and Liz get everyone else on the Human Rights Commission to quit? Then you just do it not under the aegis of the City of Worcester, and you do what you want.
We won't have access to any documents.
Well, you don't have access to the documents now. He's not giving them to you.
No, we do.
I know.
Do.
I'm kidding.
In fairness. So this is one thing that I really wish people understood. We've got tremendous access to police records. Now, is it adequate? No. And do the police even currently collect all the data that they should be collecting? No. And is there pushback against doing that? Yes. But nonetheless, there have been gains made. There have been great people who have served on this commission under many chairs for years and years and years. And we had a really excellent director of human rights. And there's been great work that's been done. The commission does have value, and there are great people on it. And I would hate to see them resign because I think, frankly, that just serves the status quo.
Right.
I continue to serve on the commission. There is a misconception about that. So the way the ordinance is written is I continue to serve until my seat is filled. So even though I haven't been reappointed, until my seat is filled, I will continue to serve.
Oh, okay.
And also leadership and service are two different things. So the commission appointed me as chair. I'm chair as long as I continue to hold that seat unless there are other elections. Now, I am recommending to the other commissioners that they actually hold elections at our next meeting, which is in 10 days or so. And the reason is because our June meeting is our annual meeting with the chief of police and his leadership team. And my fear is that if there is someone who is appointed between now and then for both Liz and I, then we could get to that meeting without any leadership to lead probably the most important meeting of the year.
Wait.
And so I don't want to see that happen.
Wait, do you think he can't be that? He can't fire the two real police accountability people on the commission right before they meet with the police department and then replace them so they can't have the meeting. He wouldn't do that, would he?
Well, I guess we'll see what happens.
Oh my God, that is cartoon. Like, that's Parks and Rec level.
Moreover, so there are currently 8 people on the commission. We're supposed to have 9, but we only have 8. 2 people have just not been reappointed despite the unanimous vote of the commission and despite the request of some city councilors. That brings it down to 6. 5 of those 6 people, their terms expire next year. Even though the city ordinance specifically says that we have to have staggered terms so that no more than 3 people change over at any one time. That will mean that everyone who's got experience, but for the one person who was wonderful, but who was just appointed a few months ago, who's now going to serve as our clerk, he would be the only one left in a year.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Jeez. This is something that we'll have to keep following. This story is not over. Ellen is not off of the HRC yet. And I hope
as of this airing, as of this taping, by the time it airs, I might be.
Oh, geez, I gotta get this out quick then, huh? Ellen, I think we got to leave it there for today. But thank you so much for coming on.
And I really appreciate your coverage of this. The most important thing is what happened on the streets of Worcester.
Yes.
And the failure of current policy, practice, training, and leadership to prevent it, and the failure of any current framework to prevent in the future. That's what we have to focus on.
Yes, that is absolutely. For most of this episode, we have been exploring the ways in which oversight doesn't happen. But I think that it should serve as a rude wake-up call to all of the residents of this city that the police pretty much will, I don't want to say will, the police can expect to get away with that as the city government is currently structured. And if you think they shouldn't get away with how they responded, it is incumbent on you to join the cause, get involved in trying to just rip the rot out of this necrotic culture and structure that pervades City Hall. Kudzu on the vine. We got to cut it off. All right. Now I'm getting fired up.
Can I just say one thing? And I know we have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
This is not an indictment of the police. I do believe people choose to serve because they want to serve. It's an indictment of not having correct guardrails and training. They have a really hard job, but it's made harder when there aren't clear standards and there aren't clear expectations, and then there's not clear accountability. So it is not an indictment. It's a very important job. We need an effective, safe, fully funded and fully trained police force to have a safe community that upholds the rule of law, that protects civil and human rights. This isn't an indictment of the police. This is a request to have accountability.
Okay. That's a nice way to put it.
We may not be fully on the same page there, but I think it's important to say, right? It's about rule of law, standards, accountability training, safety, community, civil rights.
Yeah, we are definitely temporarily aligned ideologically in that belief. My thing, you know what I was just thinking about when you were saying that, because I do agree with a lot of that. What if we had 5 cops and each of them got $500,000 and they were publicly elected? And then the rest of the stuff gets done by people who don't have guns. They show up when we really need somebody with a gun, right? The rest of the time,
That's well beyond the scope of a response on with limited time. But what I will say is that elections do matter, right?
Yes.
Whether whomever you're electing, elections matter, turnout matters. And if the message that we send is that it's hopeless, then people don't turn out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the message needs to be that with oversight, we can do so much better, and elections matter as to whether or not we're going to have oversight.
Yes,
So if you care about these issues, if you care about the horror that we saw unfold on the streets of Worcester, then you need to care about elections, you need to care about who's representing us, and you need to care about really boring things like the system of governments and checks and balances and all that stuff that you might have learned in civics, but that really does make a difference in terms of how we live our life and what values we uphold.
Right. And you don't have to be nerds about it, like me and Ellen. You don't have to be.
Exactly.
What we really need, we need volunteers for campaigns. We need people out in the streets. We need people putting on social events. We need people making a culture out of this. Not everyone has to understand the ins and outs of this to understand that there is a very obvious reason why the police are allowed to do these things. And it's because we elect people who allow them, right?
And we need to thank and support those people we do elect who put themselves out there at risk. So,
exactly.
Thanks to Councilor King, thanks to Councilor Haxhiaj, thanks to so many individuals that are out there raising their voices and doing the right thing. And let's just join them. We can do better.
We can do better. I can't think of a better note to end on than that. Ellen, this was a blast. Would love to have you back on.
I've got lots of time now.
I know. Well, right. Yeah. You know what? Maybe we'll talk about this off air more extensively, but I would love if you want. I think there's a lot of really good information from the HRC that is hard to find in the annals of the city's website and such. And it would be maybe a fun project to put that in a more user-friendly location. But anyway, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later. I know you said, I've never done a podcast before. You're a natural. You should have your own. You should, and it's not hard. Look, I do it. I'm a dumb idiot. But anyway, I have to get back out in this rain and go to the protest at 6 in front of City Hall.
Yes. And hopefully there'll be lots of people out there.
Right. And
I'm planning to head out there myself.
Right. Well, I will see you there.
Okay. Thank you so much for including me. Thanks for your time.
Of course. Always. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, actually, I know we said before we were leading in that interview that we have no more and one more things. We're going to get all our and one more things out of the way before we played the tape. But I actually do have and one more thing. I can't believe we overlooked this. You got to come to City Council tomorrow. You have to come to tomorrow, Tuesday, City Council, 6:30, City Hall. But come earlier because I am fairly sure that there is going to be a rally of sorts. And I was asked to speak at it, but that was a tentative ask. So I'm not sure if I am or not, but I will be there, obviously, either way. And show up, be loud, make them feel the heat. Make them feel like it's a really, really, really dumb, bad idea to be supporting ICE right now.
Yeah, let's show them that. Let's show them that winter energy again. When we were packing it out every week. I have also been told that there is a rally tomorrow before City Council. I've been told it starts at 5:30. I will be there. I will be the legal observer, so I'll be hanging around in the back. That's why I'll be hanging in the back and not participating. That's what the legal observer is supposed to do. But I'll be there for council and all that stuff. And yeah, I really hope to see a ton of people there. If you can't make it in person, I know there's some people that can't. Please testify via Zoom if you can. Let's really add up as much pressure as we possibly can.
Yeah, let's make. Honestly, let's make this like a complete referendum. You know, like they need to feel the heat in that room, because everyone who's mad deserves to be, and everyone who's not mad should be asking themselves some very, very deep questions that they are not going to ask themselves if we don't make them, right? All right, I think that's really it. Now. This is an extremely long episode, but whatever. It's an extremely important topic, and we'll be both of us will be following this closely throughout the week. Keep checking back to Worcester Sucks for updates, and hopefully see you down at City Hall tomorrow.
Yep. Turn your anger into action.
Yeah, let's make the most of this shitty moment.
The beat roll over, everyone in line, one at a time. They'll give us what we're asking for, 'cause God is with us and our God's the richest. Our power doesn't run on nothing, it runs on blood, and blood is easy to obtain when you have no shame. When you have no shame.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Ooh, yeah, you're way behind me. Woof. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
There was like a 2. Oh, let's try that again. 3, 2, 1. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's funny because my upload looks great right now, like better than it ever does. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I don't understand the science behind how that can be so delayed. But
I don't either, but it definitely makes it make a lot of sense how we step on each other a lot more when we record this way.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway,
It'll be
okay.
fine.
Yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Let's just get this done, get this out, because there's gonna be it's a rapidly developing story.
Whole new raft of shit.
Big old raft of fucking dog shit.